President Kennedy received this 40-pound turkey in 1963 and spontaneously spared it, saying, "Let's just keep him going." This impromptu act kicked off the formal White House tradition of pardoning a turkey each Thanksgiving. Women in the 1940s looking to slim down could try the Reduc-O-Matic, a personal portable sweat cabinet. It was essentially a glorified electric blanket that promised weight loss through perspiration, right in the comfort of your living room. King George V of England and his first cousin, Tsar Nicholas II of Russia, looked so alike they were often mistaken for each other. The cousins met here in 1913, just 1 year before the outbreak of World War I would pit their empires against each other. When the Eiffel Tower was being built in 1888, many of Paris's leading artists and writers signed a petition calling it a useless and monstrous eyesore. They protested that the iron structure would be a gigantic black smokestack, overshadowing the city's beauty. A visit from Jane Mansfield was a major morale boost for sailors and soldiers during the Cold War. Her tours with the USO drew huge crowds of servicemen who saw her as a larger-than-life symbol of the America they were serving. A soldier says his farewell to a loved one from a train window in 1922, a scene repeated across the country after the Great War. It's a quiet, personal moment from an era of transition, caught between the aftermath of war and the dawn of the Roaring Twenties. Before crossing the Atlantic, the Statue of Liberty was fully assembled in a Parisian workshop to ensure all the pieces fit. Parisians could watch the iconic figure rise over the city's rooftops before she was taken apart for her voyage to America. The Beatles played their one and only Dallas concert on September 18, 1964, to a frenzied crowd at the Memorial Auditorium. Tickets for the show, which included opening acts like the Righteous Brothers, cost between $4 and $5. Just a few years before I Love Lucy debuted, Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball shared a private moment away from the cameras. Their real-life marriage was famously passionate and turbulent, a stark contrast to the scripted comedy they would soon present to America. A Soviet-made ZIL-157 truck is seen on an assembly line in Afghanistan during the 1950s or 60s. Before the Soviet invasion, such trucks were a common sight as part of foreign aid projects meant to build up the country's infrastructure. In the golden age of comics, an all-female workforce manually assembled every single issue of titles like Superman and Batman. These women would collate the printed pages in the correct sequence by hand, handling thousands of copies per hour. Long before he was a Hollywood superstar, Samuel L. Jackson married his college sweetheart, LaTanya Richardson, in 1980. Their enduring marriage is one of the longest in modern Hollywood, a journey that began right here. This Pan Am billboard advertising "Welcome to Sunny Saigon" was photographed in April 1975. The picture was taken just days before the city fell to North Vietnamese forces, making the sign a deeply ironic historical footnote. Kids in 1950s San Francisco found a way to go sledding on the city's famously steep, snowless hills. They would use simple wooden sleds or even pieces of cardboard to race down the paved streets. A circus hippo named Lotus became a local celebrity in the 1920s for performing this publicity stunt. She was trained to pull a cart just like a horse, a bizarre spectacle that drew crowds wherever the circus went. A teenage River Phoenix cooks alongside his younger brother, Joaquin, in their family kitchen around 1986. Both brothers, raised in an unconventional household, were already working actors at this point, with River on the cusp of stardom after Stand By Me. Olivia Newton-John celebrates at the 1978 wrap party for Grease with friends Alan Carr and Elton John. The movie had just become a cultural phenomenon, making Olivia one of the biggest stars in the world. In 1958, two pilots flew this Cessna 172 over the Nevada desert for 64 straight days, setting a world endurance record. A fuel truck matched their speed below, passing up gas and supplies on a rope to keep them in the air. A 1969 photograph shows Hillary Rodham during her time as a student activist at Wellesley College. That same year, she delivered a commencement speech that challenged the guest speaker, a U.S. senator, and earned her a feature in Life magazine. This 1991 portrait of Winona Ryder was taken for a Rolling Stone feature when she was at the height of her early fame. She had just starred in defining films of the era like Edward Scissorhands and Mermaids, cementing her status as a Gen X icon. A 1956 Ford Park Lane station wagon parks next to a City Tour Deluxe bus in a classic mid-century American scene. These vehicles represented two different ways of seeing the country: the family road trip versus the guided group tour. A young Angelina Jolie is held by her mother, actress Marceline Bertrand, in the mid-1970s. Jolie grew up in the movie business, as both Bertrand and her father, John Voight, were established Hollywood actors. Two Baylor University students pose in their decorated dorm room in the 1890s. The walls, covered in photos, pennants, and clippings, show that the tradition of personalizing a college living space is well over a century old. Fashion designer Pierre Cardin sits among models wearing his futuristic space-age nurse uniforms in 1971. While the rest of the world was in bell-bottoms, Cardin proposed a radical geometric vision for professional wear. This candid photo of Marilyn Monroe was taken by a friend at home in 1960, offering a rare glimpse of her without professional makeup. It captures a relaxed, private moment away from the carefully crafted Hollywood image the public was used to. Drivers in Soviet Ukraine would pull into this UFO-themed gas station, a prime example of futuristic architecture from the late 1970s. The flying saucer-shaped canopies were designed to project an image of technological progress. The Rue de Rivoli in Paris is seen in 1900 and again in 2016, showing remarkably little has changed. Strict preservation laws have kept the city's historic architectural character largely intact through more than a century of turmoil. A woman lines up a shot in a New York City pool hall in 1952, a time when such places were still predominantly male domains. The photo, captured by Dan Weiner, reflects the subtle but changing social roles in post-war America. A group of male Titanic survivors stand on the deck of the rescue ship RMS Carpathia in April 1912. It was a controversial scene, as the Women and Children First protocol meant few men from the Titanic made it out alive. A group of men share a final legal drink in a bar on January 16, 1920. The next day, the Volstead Act went into effect, and the entire country officially entered the era of prohibition. This 1983 photo of Sigourney Weaver was taken by the famed fashion photographer Helmut Newton. The sharp, tailored look was a deliberate contrast to the blue-collar hero role she had just made famous in the movie Alien. A woman on a Vespa scooter brings a touch of European style to the streets of New York City in 1969. The windy updraft and classic American cars in the background capture a spontaneous moment from the end of the decade. Scottish Highlanders of the Argyll and Sutherland Regiment rest in a trench during World War I, circa 1916. The sight of soldiers in traditional kilts, accompanied by a stray dog, offers a surreal glimpse into the realities of trench warfare. Before electric refrigerators became common, the Iceman was a daily visitor, hauling 50-pound blocks directly into homes. His physical job and access to kitchens often made him a familiar face and a topic of neighborhood conversation. The RMS Titanic is seen here docked in Belfast shortly before its maiden voyage in 1912. The massive ship, then the largest in the world, was a marvel of modern engineering just days away from its infamous end. Surrealist painter Salvador Dali adds details to his 1941 Barnes and Pries, The Face of War. He created the haunting image in California after fleeing the conflict in Europe, channeling the horrors of the Spanish Civil War and Wabayutad Tuarut onto his canvas. Flight attendants for Pacific Southwest Airlines pose for a publicity photo inside a Boeing 747 lounge in the early 1970s. Airlines used these spacious upper-deck lounges to market the glamour and luxury of the new jet age. Manhattan Project physicist Harold Agnew is seen smiling while holding the 14-pound plutonium core of the Nagasaki atomic bomb. This declassified photo was taken in 1945 at the Tinian Island Air Base just before the weapons assembly. In December 1961, the Beatles played a small gig to a reported audience of just 18 people in the town of Aldershot. Within 2 years, the band would ignite a worldwide frenzy, making scenes like this a distant memory. Yugoslavian President Josip Broz Tito plays with a pet cheetah, a gift from Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie in 1956. Tito was known for his collection of exotic animals, which he kept on his private island retreat in the Adriatic. Blondie frontwoman Debbie Harry became a definitive face of the late 70s music scene, blending punk rock energy with pop star appeal. Her unique look and sound took the band from gritty New York clubs to the top of the international charts. A luxury car dealership in 1931 displays the latest models from the Marmon Motor Car Company. Despite the Great Depression, companies like Marmon continued to build expensive, handcrafted automobiles for the wealthy few who could still afford them. For decades, horse diving was a major carnival attraction, most famously at Atlantic City's Steel Pier. A rider would guide a horse off a 40-foot tower into a pool of water for a packed, cheering audience. Joseph Stalin sits alone beneath a crooked portrait of Karl Marx inside the Kremlin in 1932. As the Soviet leader consolidated his absolute power, millions were dying across the country in a man-made famine caused by his policies. A 1976 photograph captures actress Sybil Shepherd, who was having a major career moment. That same year, she starred alongside Robert De Niro in the landmark film Taxi Driver. A 4-year-old Prince Charles rests his head on his hand during the coronation of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, in 1953. His famously bored expression provided a relatable human moment during the hours-long historic ceremony. Hollywood bombshell Jane Mansfield created a spectacle during a 1959 visit to a London soccer match. The faces in the crowd capture the moment her movie star glamour met the world of working-class English football. An audience wears natural vision glasses for the 1952 premiere of Buona Devil, the first full-length color 3D movie. The new technology was a smash hit, kicking off a brief but intense 3D craze as studios tried to compete with television. In 1974, Mary Wallace drove into the history books as the first female bus driver for the Chicago Transit Authority. She broke a significant barrier in a male-dominated profession and went on to have a 33-year career with the CTA. 2 Palestinian women use a traditional stone mortar and pestle to grind coffee beans by hand. This ancient manual process was a daily ritual that has been passed down through generations in the Middle East.